Let's bring in the director for the Israel-Abraham Accords Peace Institute, Asher Fredman, along with former Benjamin Netanyahu advisor and co-host of the Israel Undiplomatic podcast on JNS TV, Ruthie Bloom. Welcome to both of you here. Asher, I'm going to start with you. Overall, your reaction to President Trump's proposal. A lot of people saying, listen, this is part of his deal-making ability. He's trying to inspire other countries in that region to take a stand for the rebuilding of Gaza. What do you think?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Katrina. President Trump's proposal is certainly out of the box, certainly a new and courageous way of looking at the challenge, but it fits very nicely with the reality on the ground. The reality on the ground is that Hamas currently has about 20,000 armed fighters, dozens of miles of terror tunnels. At this point, reconstruction of Gaza is reconstruction of Hamas. Any materials, any heavy equipment will be used by Hamas to rebuild its terror infrastructure and to plan the next attack. And we know, for example, from Palestinian polls only several months before October 7th, before the start of the war, that, for example, 44% of Gazans between the ages of 18 and 29 said that they would emigrate from Gaza if given the chance. And that was before the war and the destruction. So I think President Trump's plan is actually much more viable and feasible, certainly more than doing the same thing again and again that has failed so many times.
Ruthie, talk about what President Trump said and maybe the thoughts of having a United States presence permanently in the Middle East. That might bring stability.
It's a breath of fresh air, and I don't like to use the word stability because that means different things for different people. What I will say is that there's this incredible hypocrisy and irony going on in the world. On the one hand, the idea that the Palestinians are the only group on the globe that has to have a special organization to keep them refugees in perpetuity, and that is UNRWA. Meanwhile, UNRWA is also responsible for educating these children in martyrdom and jihad and in killing Jews. And so thank goodness President Trump is going to halt funding to UNRWA, and Israel shut down UNRWA's offices. So what you have is an international community on one hand refuses to let Gazans who want to leave. They want them to stay there under rubble and in danger. And on the other hand, they want to keep them radicalized. It's appalling. And as we've seen, Asher knows more about this than I do, about the Abraham Accords. Look at the difference between Arab states and Israel when they have a common future goal. And that is, I mean, it's like anything, as Trump would say, you know, when you're buying and selling an apartment, you have the same goal. The Palestinians refuse to have the same goal with Israel or the West. They reject statehood constantly. They reject any betterment of their lives.
To Ruthie's point, Asher, if Palestinians say, if what Ruthie is saying is true, reject betterment of their lives, isn't Gaza and aren't Palestinians sort of at an impasse? Because you mentioned that the rebuilding of Gaza means the rebuilding of Hamas. So based on what you're both saying, how can anything happen at all to move this forward?
Well, again, if we keep trying the same failed paradigms, the Oslo paradigm, the same slogans about, you know, it's just a two-state solution without thinking about the actual implications on the ground, we're not going to move forward. Look, the median age in Gaza is 18. Hamas took over Gaza 18 years ago. That means that half of the Gazan population approximately grew up in Hamas schools, went to Hamas mosques, watched Hamas media. There's no future for Gaza, for the people of Gaza, under Hamas. And at this point, there's no plan, given the hostage negotiations, and this is the tricky and the complex issue, for actually removing Hamas. So therefore, President Trump's plan of actually creating an opportunity for the people of Gaza to pursue better lives, better education for their children, new opportunities, whether it's a temporary move, a permanent move. We saw the press conference from the press secretary, and I think the details of the plan are still being worked out. But this, I think, is a bold new idea that really could give the people of Gaza an opportunity, the ones who want to leave. We're talking about a voluntary move.
Right.
Nobody is talking about any kind of forced transfer. But for those who don't want to live under the Hamas radical fascist terror organization, they want a better life for themselves, for their children, a new path. I think that this is an incredible opportunity that should be embraced by all who actually care about the Palestinian people.
Yeah, for sure. And we also got comment from House Speaker Mike Johnson about this, about President Trump's proposal as well. Let's play that real quick.
This is a bold, decisive move, and I think you have to do something to eradicate the threat to Israel. Here's the problem. If you leave Gaza in its current form, there's always a risk of another October 7. There's always a risk of proxies of Iran, all these terrorists.